Good morning and welcome to the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities Midweek Money Matters, where today we'll be talking about choosing the right investment professional for you. This is the first of our 2021 series. January and February, we will be covering investment topics. In March, we'll be covering consumer protection issues. And in April, we'll be moving on with financial literacy. So I hope that you will take some time to check out our Eventbrite page and see if there's anything else you'd be interested in participating in. My name is Katrina Boyer. I'll be your presenter for today, and we're going to go ahead and get started with talking about the fact that there are so many investment professionals available to us that it can be difficult to know who to trust and who is a right fit for you. What you may not realize is that the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities has more than 200,000 investment professionals. Now, this covers broker-dealers, stockbrokers, dealer agents, investment advisor representatives, and even notice filers. But that's a lot of people to choose from. And I don't know about you, but that kind of choice can cause us to be slightly overwhelmed, right? So today I'm going to kind of break things down to something that's certainly, hopefully, more manageable for us. First, we'll talk about the types of services that we're looking for. And then I'm going to review the 3 different types of professionals and how each of them is paid. Because let's be real, people don't do things like this for acts of service, right? Investment professionals are typically in business to make money and to help consumers to reach their financial goals. So we want to understand how we're going to be paying those individuals. We're also going to talk about differences in legal obligations and a new form that has been mandated that we all receive from our investment professionals, which is the Form CRS, which stands for Client Relationship Summary. So we'll talk about what that is as well. But first, let's figure out what kind of services do we actually need. Whether we are looking for someone to help us to be able to buy and sell securities. That's your typical broker. And that person will take our direction. Let's say I have stocks in ABC Airlines, and I want to sell some of those stocks so that I can buy stocks in XYZ train service. Whatever that company might be. A stockbroker or a broker dealer is the person that I'm going to have to call and tell them that I want to buy and sell these securities. If we want someone who's going to look and help us to reach our financial retirement investment goals, that's someone who's going to help us to manage our ongoing investments. That person's a little more hands-on. And if we're looking for someone who's going to we want to help us organize sort of that big financial picture, including maybe estate planning for our children or grandchildren's higher education, those types of things. So we kind of need to have this idea about what we're looking for before we try to decide who we're going to hire to represent us. So let's talk then about the different types of professionals. Now, as we go through, I will outline that type of professional, and then immediately after that, we'll talk about how that professional in particular is paid so that we can kind of keep that grouped together. I think it helps with, kind of remembering exactly what we need to keep in mind. So the first type of professional that I want to talk about is the broker or broker-dealer. That's the one I mentioned early on where we talked about the person who helps us to buy and sell those securities that we've done the research on and we know what we want to do. They're also known as a registered representative. They can be known as a financial consultant or a financial advisor or even investment consultant. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So those are that would be the broker dealer, and we often think of stockbrokers when we see movies and things of that nature, where we see, buying and trading on the floor. The broker dealer is probably not at the floor, but is likely connected to that. But so again, that's that broker dealer or stockbroker. Now, those individuals are paid, those individuals are paid based on a commission. So every time you call them or every time you go online and tell them that you want to buy or sell, there's going to be paid a commission on that sale or that purchase. But it's important that we understand that this way of payment, this type of relationship, could potentially expose you to a possible conflict of interest. And the reason I say that is because sometimes brokers are paid an incentive by a company, whether that's ABC stock or XYZ mutual fund, whatever it is. They may get a kickback for guiding consumers or their clients or customers towards buying or selling a specific product. So I think it's really important that we understand how that actually works. So we need to understand that broker dealer is going to be paid that commission, but they may actually have a conflict of interest. But we'll learn later on in today's session that those conflicts of interest have to be disclosed. So at least we go into that relationship knowing what the conflict may be. So the next type of investment professional that I want to talk about is an investment advisor. That's that person that's going to listen to what we're looking for, what goals we want to achieve in our investments, and they will do the homework. Excuse me. They'll do the homework and help you to reach your financial goals by providing you and buying and selling and investing on your behalf. Now, investment advisors are also known as investment managers, investment counsel, which I think is a little bit confusing, but they're also known as asset, wealth, or portfolio managers. And I think that really helps to kind of help us to understand really what they're doing. So investment advisors are helping us to manage our money that we have set aside for wealth building, planning for retirement, and those types of things. Now, an investment advisor is going to be paid by a percentage of the total assets that they have under management for you. So let's say I have $100,000 that I've asked this particular investment advisor to manage for me. I'm going to pay him a percentage of that money. Now, it's important that I know that this percentage can vary quite a bit, but from one professional to another. So understanding what that percentage is that we're going to be paying them is really important. Because if I've got $100,000 and one professional is charging me 1% and the other is charging me 3%, that's a really big difference. The other thing that we should understand is that the more money we have that our investment professional is managing, we're going to have lower fees associated with that. So someone who, excuse me, an investment advisor who is managing $50,000 for one client and managing $150,000 for another, the amount that the percentage that he's going to charge that person with more money is probably going to be less than what they're charging the person who has the lesser amount of money. So it's important that we understand that, because while it's okay for us to have multiple professionals working for us, we need to understand that money, that percentage that we're paying could be, we could end up paying more money for that. So the other type of professional that I want to talk about is the financial planner. The financial planner really goes even a step further and helps us to plan our big financial picture, whether that involves planning for our retirement, our long-term care, life insurance. It runs that whole gamut. Sometimes they even help us with setting goals to pay off debt. They can help us with making a financial plan to be able to pay for kids' school. Whatever our goals are financially for that big picture, that financial planner is going to be helping us with that. They're also known as certified financial planners, personal financial planners, registered financial planners, or even RFP, which again stands for registered financial planner. Now, one thing that I've learned, and we're actually going to be covering this more in depthly next week, is that financial professionals often have lots of different letters after their name. And it can be really confusing to know what each of those letters mean. So actually next week, we'll be talking more in depthly about the alphabet soup that comes after my investment professional's name. So we'll talk about what it took for them to get that designation, what the different designations can and can't do. It's sort of part two of what are you looking for in your financial planner? So I hope that if you haven't already registered, I hope that you will take the time to register for that for next week. But the financial planner is paid on what's called a simple fee scale. Now, whether that person is going to be paid hourly or whether they're going to charge you a flat fee, they'll sit down and they'll tell you, this is what I'm going to charge to help you get your financial house in order. Or it may even be performance-based, based upon different criteria that are set out. But what's important for us to know is that they have to tell us what we're going to be charged. And we'll talk about that again in that form CRS in just a few slides. But so we've got stockbrokers who are paid a commission. We've got investment advisors who are also paid a percentage of our assets under management. And we've got the financial planner who is going to be paid an hourly or a flat fee. So that's really the three different ways that professionals are paid as well. But I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the legal obligation that the different types of professionals have. Now, the first two professionals that we talked about, the broker-dealer and the investment advisor, are both types of professionals that are pretty heavily outlined. And what's interesting is one of them is a fiduciary, meaning they are required to only do what's right for your investment scenario. So that's your investment advisor. Your stockbroker or your broker-dealer is not considered a fiduciary, which means they may tell you about multiple offers, some of which may not be quite as appropriate as others. So it's important that we understand that and that if we're going to hire a broker dealer, it's important that we do the homework, that we research, what we want them to buy and sell on our behalf so that we can make those informed decisions. Now, just because they're not a fiduciary doesn't mean they don't have any obligation to look out for your best interest. It just means that if there are two different options, one may be better suited to you than the other. They're just not required to provide you with that information. So that fiduciary, that financial, that investment advisor absolutely has to provide you with the best service that they can. They can't put you into a product that is not suited for you. So let's say, excuse me, you are just a few years away from retirement, and that person suggests that you go into, excuse me, that person, it shouldn't suggest that you go into a very volatile market, because if you lose significant value in your portfolio, if you're retiring in just a few years, you likely don't have the time to come back from that. So I think it's important that we understand the fiduciary and non-fiduciary obligation, but we also want to keep in mind that sometimes our professionals are licensed as broker dealers and investment advisors. So knowing what their qualifications are can go a long way in making sure that we are comfortable with how our investment professional is going to act on our behalf. Now, excuse me, the financial advisor may or may not be licensed as an investment as a broker dealer or a financial advisor. So that person, that financial planner, is the one who is, they may or may not have these requirements as well. So again, knowing the qualifications for our investment professional goes a long way in helping us to choose the right person for us. So I get a lot of questions from consumers who ask me, well, how do I choose a professional? Well, it's a good idea to go online. You can find a list of individuals who are doing what you're looking for them to do. So you can look for broker dealers in your area. I happen to live just outside of Harrisburg. So if I was looking for an investment professional, and I was looking online, I could go to my favorite search engine and I could look for investment advisors in the Harrisburg area. But I can also ask friends and family. That goes a long way in finding individuals that you might want to consider. But I always encourage people, you wouldn't, if you were hiring someone to fill a job, you wouldn't hire the first person that comes in off the street. You're going to interview them. You're going to make sure that it's a good fit. So it's important when we're hiring investment professionals that we take those things into consideration as well. So let's put together a list of a few different professionals that we want to take a look at and consider. And then we want to make sure that we verify their license or registration. We want to make sure they're legally able to do what they claim they're going to do for us. And we'll talk a little bit in just a couple slides about where to go to verify that license. The other thing we want to do is we want to put a series of questions together so that we can interview that professional to make sure that we're comfortable with them. And make sure that some of their, that their thought process aligns with our own and things like that. And then the last thing we want to do is take a look at that form CRS that I've mentioned on several occasions throughout today's presentation, and we'll cover more information just in about 3 slides. So that's how we want to start that process of selecting that professional. Now, here are just a few of the questions that you may consider asking that professional. But the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has a really great whole list of questions that you can ask your professional. So if you go to investor.gov, you can actually search for what questions to ask. If you'd like a copy of the link that's pictured in the slide below, I'm happy to send that to you. My email address and telephone number are provided at the end of the session today. But some things that we might want to ask, what's your background? What has made you passionate about being a stockbroker or broker-dealer or a financial planner? Help me to understand why you do what you do. And we can ask them what kind of products they offer. Sometimes they only offer stocks for purchase. Do I want someone who's only able to direct me towards stocks, or am I looking for someone who's got a more holistic approach and is going to give me the ability to purchase mutual funds and bond funds and some of those other things? And then you want to ask how the firm or the individual, or probably both, are going to get paid. That's where they're going to tell you whether or not they're getting kickbacks from other places that may tarnish or may influence how they suggest you invest. So you want to make sure that you understand that. And then you want to ask what fees that you are going to have to pay to that professional. Again, remember, there are lots of different ways that individuals get paid, whether it's commission, whether it's on a per transaction, whether they're going to take a percentage of your whole net worth or the net worth that they have that they're managing. So make sure that you understand how they're being paid. I won't take a job where I don't know how I'm going to get paid. I'm not going to go and order cable service or some other sort of utility and not know what I'm going to have to pay in order to have that. So make sure that you know what you're going to be paying for the service they're providing. And if you interview multiple people, like we talked about in this previous slide, if we have a list of individuals that we're asking questions to, when we ask these questions, we can actually compare one answer to the other, and we can kind of take a look and compare apples to apples rather than apples to oranges, because there's really no comparison, right? I mean, they're both fruit, but that's about it. So make sure that you ask those questions, and make sure you ask those questions to all of the professionals that you're considering. So in 2020, the SEC adopted a new regulation that requires that investment professionals provide you with a client or customer relationship summary. Now, that's a document that you can actually find on many websites, on the professionals' websites. It's typically in the About Us, I think is what I read. But as you are interviewing someone, you can also ask them for that relationship summary so that you can take a look at it, because that goes a long way in helping us to really understand what is happening. So know that the Form CRS has to have a list of the types of services that professional or that firm is offering. It's going to provide you with a list of the fees and costs that you'll have to pay. It's also, and I think this is one of the really important ones, it's going to outline those conflicts of interest. Because again, that conflict of interest can really, it can pose a problem if we're not aware of it. It also will provide us with the required standards of conduct. They're going to outline exactly what they're going to do for you. And then the other cool thing is that if the firm or its professionals have an action taken against them, whether it's a reportable legal or maybe even a disciplinary history, they have to provide that to you on that form CRS that sort of outlines that in black and white, which I think is really important. But we need to understand that complaints or actions taken against, we need to understand that full picture. So I think that if we talk about how to verify that that professional is legitimate, that can also go a long way. So if you've not been on any of these sessions before, you do want to go to a website called brokercheck.finra.org. And when you go into that site, excuse me, it provides you with a searchable database. You can just type in the name of the professional you're considering, and it will bring up all the information that's available about them. It tells you what exams they've passed, how they're licensed, what states they're licensed in. It actually provides a full work history, which is very helpful. And it also will tell you if there have been actions taken against that individual. And what's really cool is if you go to Brokercheck, you can actually compare what's on Brokercheck to what's on the form CRS, just to make sure that everything kind of meshes. Now you can learn more information about investing at the Securities and Exchange Commission's website, investor.gov. And you can always go to our website, dobs.pa.gov, and we have oodles of publications and materials and lots of different things that you can take a look at so that you can learn more about investment professionals, the investing process. If you've not tuned in before, we've got information on stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all kinds of really great resources. You can also call our consumer services office. Our trained professionals are happy to help you to figure out what's going on. Whether you've got a complaint about an organization that we regulate, whether you've got a question about a potential fraud or scam, or you're considering hiring an investment professional, you can give our office a call at 800 PA Banks. And what's really cool is a real life person is going to answer the call as long as you call between regular business hours and they're not all on the phone. Sometimes we have 4 staff plus a director. Sometimes they're all busy and you have to leave a message, but they do return calls typically within that same business day, but I think the policy is within 24 business hours. So they're a really great resource. And again, you get that live person who can help you with that. So as we start to wrap up, I am going to be opening up for some questions in just a couple of slides, but I do want to remind you that Tuesday, January 12th at 6 and Wednesday, January 13th at 10 o'clock, we'll be covering the alphabet soup of investment professionals. So I hope you will consider tuning in next week. Here is my contact information if you would like a copy of today's session, or you have a question or a suggestion, you can always email me. You are also going to be receiving a survey at about 10:45 this morning that will it's an evaluation survey, but we really